everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are having a great week. I missed you guys this week. I kind of broke my my chain of running 2 videos a week for the summer. Last week that did not happen. I didn't even get one video up last week. It was a crazy week. We had I actually got hacked really bad. But that's another story for a different day. And so I dealt with that one whole afternoon last week. Had to do some scrambling and get some account passwords changed and contact some people. And like I said, I got hacked pretty bad, and I'm usually pretty savvy with that stuff. And the hackers are getting quite creative with their stuff. So I'll just say this: if you ever get a call from your bank, make sure, well, don't even make sure it's your bank calling. That's how I got in trouble. Was I got a call from my bank and I checked the number. I don't usually answer my phone anymore, and I checked the number to make sure it was my bank calling, and it was my bank's phone number calling, but it was not my bank calling. So I guess now I talked to one of the gals at our local branch. Hackers can take the caller ID and change it to the number that they want, and it looks like they're calling from your bank. So I learned a lesson last week, and so that was part of the reason. The other reason was my garden suddenly decided to, everything was ready. My tomatoes that have been green for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks all turned red last week. And actually I have another round out there right now that I need to go. I probably should have gone and gotten them this afternoon, but that can wait until tomorrow. So that's not a bad problem to have, except for they all needed to be canned last week. So I spent 3 full days canning all the tomato things, which I loved. It filled up our pantry pretty good, and I have more coming. And then last week I spent a day with a friend butchering 213 chickens, I think we did. And she has a commercial kitchen on her property, so it makes it really quick and amazing to do all that work. It's much easier than any other time I've butchered chickens. So I brought chickens home for the freezer and loaded up our pantry last week, and so that is why I was not here. But needless to say, I am back. I have 2 videos planned this week. It's actually Sunday, so this one's going to come out tomorrow morning, and then I have a whole list of videos. I think I'm gonna well, I have a couple plans. So yeah, I have the next few weeks planned out for videos, so it shouldn't be a problem anymore. And the garden is winding down and all the things, so we're kind of jumping back into our a little bit of a slower fall schedule, I hope. Seasons seem to be changing here quickly. We've got some cold weather coming in this week, and so that's why I'm in a rush to get the garden out too, because it's not going to last much longer out there. So I think tomorrow I'll probably end up pulling, I'm going to pull green tomatoes tomorrow and set them on tables in our garage, and see if I can't get them to turn that way. So we are coming to the end of it. It's been an interesting summer. It's been a very good summer, but busy summer. So without further ado, let's jump into what we're going to talk about today. And keep in mind, I am giving you just the basics. Anytime that I give you information, make sure to do your own information or your own digging so that you feel comfortable with what you're doing also. That's one thing I've had to learn. We all have a different level of what we're comfortable with. And so, yeah, I'm going to give you some information today, and then you guys can kind of take it and run with it if you want, or if you're not interested in this at all, maybe this isn't a video for you, but I hope it is. I dug deep, and actually I'm going to re-dig into this book a little bit more, but I wanted to, and do I have my other book here? I do. I wanted to talk about this book, Beyond the Pellet. This is going to be flip-flop for you guys. Feeding Rabbits Naturally. And this is just a quick read. And so I finished up this book this week and took some notes, and I liked this book. So it's a short book where I wanted I wanted directions on how to do this. I wanted very specifics. And that's not necessarily what I got, but like what I just said before, it's not a bad thing because then I have to do my own research. First off, this is written for meat birds mainly. So this may need to be tweaked for my fiber animals, my fiber rabbits. But it all makes sense to me. I am jumping into this just with the way the world is today. You just don't know anymore. And I want to have the knowledge that if something crazier were to happen, that I would be able to feed my animals, because I think that's going to be important if anything does get any crazier than what it is today. And I am in a place now, we have 5 acres, that I am able to do that a little bit easier. And so that's why I wanted to dive into this book. The first part of it, which one of my friends, I don't know if Shannon's here, if she's just on Facebook, she had the same thoughts I did when I started into this book. The first, almost half of it is talking about the commercial rabbit industry, commercial rabbit feed industry. And I'm like, I don't really want to know, other than I did enjoy the history of when it started, because it tells me that there was a before a bag of rabbit feed. Do you know what I'm saying? So like there was a time where people didn't go to the local TSC or the local farm store and grab a 50-pound bag of pellets and give it to their animals. And it hasn't been that long. So we'll start there. We'll jump in there and go forward. So the commercial rabbit pellet industry kind of took off over everything in the late 1800s. So we're talking commercial feed of any kind, dog feed, cat feed. And then in 1927 is when Purina first opened their first pellet mill. So 1927 is when kind of took off. He talks about old-timer rabbitries, and that was between, I think, 1945 and 1965 is what he considered in that time frame. Because even then, even though it started in 1927, they still were perfecting it and what rabbits needed, and didn't really have it down until after, it sounds like, 1965. So, and then of course World War II, like World War II did to everything and industrialized everything. It also industrialized it even more so to where a lot of people went to pellets at that time. But that wasn't that long ago. And prior to that, people were caring for rabbits. They had rabbits and they were feeding them something. So he does finally jump into that. I was looking back through this afternoon. It wasn't clear to me. I think it's clear to me now, but I want to make sure that what I have in my brain is correct. He talks about a quart is about the size of amount that you want to feed your rabbit of beyond the pellet. So he talks a lot about a 75% ratio. So I want to contact him. I think they're from Michigan, and I think, yeah, I probably can. I would like to contact him because I wasn't sure if he's still feeding like 25% of the rabbit's diet is pellets, and then the other 75 are these things he talked about. That was one thing that was unclear to me. But he talks about about a quart size is the amount that you want to give your rabbits of this. So the first thing he talked about was willow branches, and he goes into very specifics about willows, and he talks about how he has a willow tree, but it's massive, which we have a willow tree here. We've had willow trees at our properties, and they are huge to get the amount of feed off from that. So willow, he talks about being 25% of the daily rabbit feed. So willow was one of his main things. So he wasn't able to use his willow tree because you just can't reach it once you get the lower level of the branches cut. It's hard to get anywhere else unless you use a ladder and stuff. And so he found these shrub willows that he talks about a lot in here, and there's a specific company that you can order from. And I need to do some more digging because we have a swamp area in our property that is all willows, and I'm assuming they're shrub willows. These are not the tree type. They're all on the ground. And so I'm gonna put a clip in here if hopefully. Okay guys, we are out, and if it gets loud out here, I am right out by the road. So we are out by our swamp area, and I wanted to show you this here is all willow. This here is all willow. This is willow. There's quite a bit out there that's willow, and here this is all, I think this is what you'd call shrub willow, but I need to do with some more research to figure out if it's specific to the kind that he talked about. So I have lots and lots of willow. I'm really excited to have this, and again, I'm going to contact that person in the book and see what I find out in regards to ours. I remember I'm going to put a clip of a couple things, and one of those things is the willows that we have. I'll show you those. But so that was one of the first things he started talking about, was how good willows are. And the willow tree is, what did he say? Well, if I can find it now, maybe I can't find it again. He was talking about how it's aspirin. It's like an aspirin, I think he said. Here it is. And it's good for treating, if I can find it. I had it just sitting here. It's good for treating parasites. It has a natural parasite. I'll try to put it down below if I find it. But he talked about that a lot, which was kind of neat. And he gave a couple people that you could contact about the willows to get your own willow branches, which I may, once I find out if the willows that we have are something that would be usable. He talks about very specific, like these are S16V or something like that, SX61 type shrub willows. And so I need to do some research on that for our willows to see. But then if not, I have this person here that I can contact and actually order some from. If I end up doing that, I may, sorry, I'm still looking for that one part that I wanted to read to you, and now I can't find it. I had everything highlighted here. There it is. Weeping willow branches, twigs, and leaves can all be fed, so they can eat the twig part too. Willow is a natural pain reliever, and it's also thought to be a natural coccidiostat, which is coccidia is the parasite that we all deal with when we have animals, and so that's why he went with willow with his part of his feeding process. Before I get too deep into this, also he talks about hay being a part of the percentage also. So that may be where he gets his other 25%, because the 75% is all the willow and the other things that I'm going to talk about. And in the beginning of this, he talks about having hay, free choice hay for your rabbits. And so it may be that the other 25% of the diet is that hay. And he does recommend Timothy hay, which I do feed ours. Ours is a mix of Timothy and grass hay. And he talks about grasses also. You can almost grow your own grass for your rabbits. So hay is one part of this, and then willow is another 25% of that feeding. The other one he goes into is comfrey, which comfrey is a great herb. It does lots of things. And a lot of times you can find it wild. I think we have it wild out here. So comfrey is another one that would be another 25% of your feeding. And he goes into what it's good for. It's a good source of vitamin A, good for nursing does, pregnant does. So he always makes sure that comfrey is 25% of his whole 100% of the daily feeding. And he also gives some sites where you can get comfrey plants from. I am looking into, after reading this book, and this is going to be a part of the extra clip that I throw in here, I have areas next to my rabbit barn and my rabbit colony where I am thinking about, and I will show you those, thinking about planting some of this stuff so it's right next to my rabbits, and using it that way. So next year that might be one of my projects to do, because the next thing he talks about is herbs, most herbs, and he does give a list of all of the plants and perennials and stuff. There is a list in here of what is good for your rabbits, and he goes through all of the hays and perennials, and he goes through all of the herb listings that they can eat. So that is in here. And then it goes through the vegetables. So you've got hay, 25%. You've got willow branches, twigs, and leaves, 25%. You've got comfrey, 25%. And then you have herbs and veggies, which fill in the rest of that. So I think that's where he's getting his 100% from. And then the last section of this book talks about the setting up the trays to do sprouted grains and fodder, which I have done before for my chickens and for the rabbits. That is a bit time consuming. I have 20 rabbits right now, and so as I read this book, I'm trying to figure out how can I implement this into a daily routine where it makes sense and it's not taking a ton of time to do it. I do have sprouting trays where I could do that quite easily. And then he says to give, each rabbit could have, so he did smaller baskets and he split them in half. So each rabbit could have a section. I have bigger trays, so I could almost get my trays going and have enough. There my camera goes again, messing up. I have to do something with this. So I was talking about sprouting trays. So I think I have enough trays where I could do a few days and then start over again. They would miss a couple days, but I think I would be able to do that. I'm more interested in doing the willow, which is what I'm going to start with, I think, doing research. And the comfrey patch. He talked about kale being a really, really good supplement for, or feed for them. And he talked about how you'd want to have one kale plant for each of your adult rabbits. So I would need like 20 kale plants. I do grow kale in my garden, and I typically grow quite a bit, not that much. So I'd have to kind of rethink that, which is why I'm going to show you the areas around my rabbit barn and stuff where I could possibly implement some of these plantings next spring. That would be very rabbit specific, and it would be right next to my barn. He does talk about drying things, so like drying herbs at the end of the season, drying any of the things, kale, any of the herbs, some of the veggies, the like radish leaves, beet greens, things like that, and drying them to have them through winter. That's going to be one of my biggest challenges, is that we do have, for the most part, we have hard winters here in Michigan. And a lot of this stuff isn't going to be available. So this isn't something that I can start tomorrow and continue to do, because we're going to hit winter here pretty quick. And I'm not sure, I'll have to think about this. This is going to be a process. And he also talked about how you need to not just shove all of this, which we all know this, I hope. You don't just switch overnight and start feeding all of this to your rabbit. You're going to slowly implement it into their daily. He talks about doing little things for about a week or 3 to 5 days, I think is what he said. And by the end of the week, you will have them kind of switched over. And again, this is something I need to research a little bit deeper because of having fiber rabbits. And they have, I want to make sure that they're getting enough of their protein and things like that. So I need to do a bit more research, which I did order. This is one of the books he recommended. And this is a penguin, a penguin book, which somebody talked about the farm books. This was a 1941, which is why I bought it, because I wanted to see what they did back in the again, it's in that area between 1927 to 1945 when they were still trying to get the commercial feed up and running and getting it perfected. So this would have fallen in the area where people were really feeding, and this is called Keeping Poultry and Rabbits on Scraps. Interestingly enough, he did go into scraps in this book, and he talked about pizza crust. There were a couple things that he said you can feed your rabbits. I don't know if I have that marked, but pizza crust was one of the things that I thought was interesting. But I guess, it's as long as there's nothing on it. Another thing for those of you in the South or in warmer zones, this would be zone like 8 to 10 gardening zones. A moringa tree is what they recommended as after the willow tree. A moringa tree was one of the trees that they recommended for feeding your rabbits. And it's a natural anti-parasitic, antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial. So that might be something for you southern folks that might have the ability to plant a moringa tree. You might want to do that to feed to your rabbits. So I'm going to continue to dive into this book next, and this might be another video. And as I decide what to do with my area here, again, this is going to be have to be planned over the next year. It isn't something I'll probably be able to do this winter other than implementing. I very easily could do fodder because I do have that stuff set up. In my mind, I was thinking with wheatgrass, how expensive wheat berries are right now, because I'm also a bread baker, and I'm like, that seems like a lot. But then he did the math, and I'm not sure when this book was written. He did the math, and actually wheat berries were cheaper. This was 2013, so it hasn't been that long ago. Wheat berries were about, what did he say? It's when you break down a 50 bag of wheat berries to 50 pound bag of wheat berries to 50 pounds of rabbit pellets. I think the rabbits are 5 cents per serving or 0.05 per serving, and the wheat berries ended up being 0.04 cents per serving. So it's actually cheaper to do wheat berries. So I'm going to possibly be in search for a wheat berry that maybe I don't go organic with it. Maybe I go non-GMO and see what 50 pounds of wheat berries are at right now, and just use those specifically for my rabbits to start. And that's where I start this winter, is with the fodder trays or the sprouting trays, and see if I'll start implementing that into it. He talks about as you get a whole generation of your rabbits shifted, the next generations just naturally fall into place, which I find is interesting in regards to feeding them without pellets. So I hope this was informative for you. I hope you learned something today. I know I did. I will be implementing some gardens with some of this stuff in next year, and just making that a part of my morning routine when I go in. And remember that 1 quart rule he used. It's about a quart of all of those things put together that your rabbit needs each day. So yeah, if you want these books, I will link them down below. I got them from Amazon. And I don't know, I feel like I got the last copy of this one. You might be able to find it used. Somebody was talking about, was it these penguin farm books or a different farm book, the old ones that you want to get your hands on, because they're full and loaded with information. So yeah, I'm interested, and we'll go through this book together next. So I hope you guys are having a fantastic Sunday, and I hope you were able to enjoy your day and create something. Have a great day. Okay guys, this is the side of my rabbit barn here, and I was actually just out here the other day thinking I did nothing with this flower bed here this year. It's got some stuff in it. So, and actually there's a brick, can't really see it because it's overgrown, but there's a brick trim around here. I think next year I'm going to pull this all out and pull it this way a little bit and start planting some of these herbs and create an herb garden. Put some comfrey in here. I've actually got all this area here, and then this is the chicken run and the rabbit colony. And I've got some spots in here that are just weeds. I've got my flax and things here, but I could easily put in some plants where this is. Scott's out with the goats, giving them lovin's. So this is another area, and then around the side here, actually got quite a bit of space where I could put some plant boxes, some raised beds. So I've got this area out here that's right next to the chickens and the rabbit colony, and I'm actually getting ready to, I've got 2 girls out here with the igloo, and I'm getting ready to put another type of hutch out here and put 2 more girls out here. So we'll see how that goes too, but I could put a bed here easily to grow some things also. So that's what I'm thinking of. So I hope that's helpful.